Have you ever felt in your life that what you have is not enough? Perhaps not enough money, not enough favor, access to relationships. Perhaps you don't feel enough yourself. Has it ever happened to you? If you've been at that place, in this video, I want to teach you 3 things that you can do when you feel that what you have is not enough. So interesting to see in the book of John how the disciples with the Lord, they felt the same tension at a particular moment. Jesus had just finished teaching to such a large crowd that was following him because they had seen the miracles that he was performing. And after all the miracles and the teaching, now it was late, the Bible says, and the disciples have a predicament. Jesus asked them, hey, how can we feed this crowd? And they really don't know what to do. And if we see the scriptures in John chapter 6, verses 5 through 13, it says, Jesus looked up and saw that a large crowd was coming toward him. And he said to Philip, where will we buy bread for these people to eat? But he said this to test Philip, because he knew what he was about to do. Philip answered, 200 denarii worth of bread is not enough for each one to receive even a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, he said to him, there's a little boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, but what are these for so many people? Jesus said, have the people sit down. Now the ground that was covered with an abundance of grass, so everyone sat down, all the men, 5,000 in number. Then Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them to those who were seated. The same also with the fish, as much as they wanted. When they had eaten enough, he said to his disciples, gather up the leftover pieces, so that nothing will be lost. They gathered them up and filled 12 large baskets with pieces from the 5 barley loaves that were left over by those that had eaten. And it's fascinating how the whole thing goes down, because oftentimes in our journeys with the Lord, we feel that we're not enough. We feel we don't have enough money, enough favor, enough connections, enough relationships, enough opportunities. And if you look at Jesus, he starts with what you have. That's the first thing that I want to point out to you. That when you feel that what you have is not enough, instead of just giving up or not pursuing what God called you to do, or what's in your heart to do, or the dream that you have, remember that God always starts with what you have. It happened here at this particular moment, and it's happened in so many occasions throughout the scriptures, that God encourages you and I to look within, to look at what we already have, rather than becoming anxious over what's missing. I find it unfair that at moments we complain to the Lord about what we don't have, when we actually refuse to do something with what's within us, with what the Lord has already given us. So my take on this is, when you get ready to either go on a journey or start a company perhaps, or take a step of faith, or do something new in your life, don't fix your eyes on what's missing, on what you don't have, but actually look at what's currently in your possession. So you realize that that's how it happens in this story. The disciples were seeing lack. Where can we feed this multitude? Where can we get the bread to feed this multitude? And Jesus decides to start with a boy's lunch. He decides to start a miracle with what someone already had. So it happens. It happens that we don't feel ready. It happens that we don't feel equipped enough or ready enough. And we are questioning continually whether what we have is the right thing or not, whether we are ready or not, whether if we have enough knowledge, enough preparation to start the dream, to go on with the career, to pursue the vision. When in reality, faith doesn't begin with abundance, it begins with availability. Faith doesn't begin with abundance, it begins with availability. The second thing that I would love to point out to you is not to let the not enough hold you back. Don't let the fact that you feel that what you have is not enough hold you back from opening your business, from pursuing the career, from going after what the Lord is highlighting in your heart, from going after what you feel is the right thing to do. Do not let the not enough hold you back. It happens all the time. I've been there so many times in my life in which I was so close not to take a step because I felt that what I had was not enough. Not enough money, not enough knowledge, not enough preparation. And I could have easily missed on what the Lord was getting ready to do. I could have easily missed on what God had prepared for my life just because that thought was haunting me. It was so daunting, the thought of how about if you do it and you fail? How about if you start and you can finish? How about if you pursue this and you're not equipped enough, you're not ready enough? And often this holds us back. So don't let that thought of not enough hold you back. If you realize the disciples encountered it, but yet they looked around, they said, I could imagine when, the moment Jesus says, hey, we got to feed this crowd. They've been following, they've been with us here for several days. They got to eat. The night is on them. We got to do something. I imagine these disciples are running around and says, hey, does anyone have some food? What can we do? How can we go about it? How can we really feed this multitude? And then all of a sudden someone shows up and says, hey, all we have is a boy's lunch. All we have is 5 loaves and 2 fish. And not even sure if that's enough. But the point is that they didn't let the not enough hold them back. But yet they communicated, yet they expressed to the Lord, this is what we have. And perhaps you're watching this and you're saying, Frank, you have no idea what I've been through the last few months, the last few weeks. It's been a moment of feeling that I'm not enough and I don't have enough. But I'm yet to be open and sincere and have an honest heart-to-heart conversation with the Lord. My 2 cents, how about you start? How about you engage in a conversation with Him? How about you express to Him, Lord, this is the only thing I have in my hands? Because faith begins with availability. God starts the miracle with what He's given you, with what you got in your hands. And there's too many people that they often sit without moving, without taking action, because they keep on contemplating the thought that what they have is not enough. But yet there are others who dare to believe, who dare to step out, who dare to dream big, and they see God moving in their lives. They experience God's favor, God's blessing, open doors. The business begins to flourish because they dared to have faith. They trusted where fear's voice was so loud. They leaned into the voice of trust. They chose faith over fear, and they didn't let that one thought hold them back. It's interesting when you see this, because now these 2 points, they lead us to the next. What to do when you feel that what you have is not enough, or when you don't feel like you are enough. In those moments, the third thing I will point out is for you to release what you have and trust God with it. If He gave you a gift, if He gave you a talent, if He gave you resources, if He gave you the ability to serve Him in some way, shape, or form, when you release that to him, he's able to multiply it. The moment they brought the loaves and the 2 fish and they put them in Jesus' hand, he had the power to multiply it. What you have might seem small, but in the hands of Jesus, it's just what you need. It might seem small, it might seem little, it might seem insignificant. Your talent, your gift, your ability might seem that it's not much, but in the hands of the Master, it could do so much more than what you actually think it's possible, because it's in his hands that it can be multiplied. When you make a decision to set it before him, he's got the power to multiply it. Often we carry the responsibility, or we want to take on the job of being the ones that can multiply this or that, a gift or talent, a resource, when in reality, he's just calling us to surrender it. He's calling us to yield it. He's calling us to set it at his feet. And when we do that, he's got the power to multiply it. This is helpful for me. So I'm really hoping that as you listen, as you watch, it can help you as well. I'll give you 2 more closing thoughts. Usually when you don't feel enough, you feel that what you have is not enough, you haven't been dealt a great hand, you haven't had enough opportunities, and you find yourself in this dilemma. But you understand that he starts to work with what he's given you. That the thought that says it's not enough shouldn't hold you back from pursuing what God called you to do. And how much power is behind surrendering. How much power is behind yielding. You would experience some incredible miracles. And it's beautiful because you get to a place where you understand and you get to know God. And if you pay attention to the story where they bring the lunch to Jesus and he multiplies it, before he does that, he gives clear instructions. He says, have everyone sit down. There's moments in our lives in which we are running so much, going so fast, it's just fast paced, trying to make things happen, fighting in our own, that God needs to say, hey, I need you to sit down and watch me work. Sit down and watch what I'm capable of doing. When you surrender, when you yield, when you present before me what I've given you, watch how I'm able to multiply it. And the Bible specifically says that to those who sat down, they were handed an abundance of resources. After you follow instructions, after you take a moment to rest, after you take a moment to lean into what he's doing, after you say, Lord, you are way better at this than me. Let me just watch and learn. Watch and learn how it's done. You know, and it makes me laugh because I've been there so many times. There's moments that he just sits you down. And as he does that, as you learn to allow yourself to be shepherded and be taken to the quiet waters and to be fed by green pastures, the whole world begins to unfold before you. And you realize that what you have was more than enough. The disciples go from a moment of need to a moment of abundance. And the ones that they said, we don't have enough, were forced to carry 12 baskets full. All of them were walking out with their hands full. It's just amazing how things that we thought were impossible, now we can carry with us and tell the whole world, hey, this works, and this works. I'm so grateful that we get to spend a few minutes together. Share this video with someone. Give it a like, drop a comment. And I really pray that today you could embrace these few small keys on what to do when you feel that what you have is not enough.